Sounds good.
Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. This week, new guest brought in Tim Smith, Army vet, Patriot commercial cleaning founder, and just an all-around great guy. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Tim's got some great thoughts and ideas in the business world, and really how he got to where he is, and how he's created such a successful business in that niche of, guess what? We all got to have something clean, don't we? Tim, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, thanks a lot, Oz. I appreciate it. Looking forward to doing the interview here.
Yeah. Well, my first thought is, why cleaning? What got you into the cleaning business?
Well, I remember sitting in school. I was taking a class, and it was a social economic development course.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about all the jobs, going overseas at the time and things like that. And I was taking this class, and I seen the janitorial card on the outside of class, and I thought to myself, it was 2010 at the time. I was like, you know what? This is something the veterans can do during the day, or it's at night, and then go to school during the daytime. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of doing the same thing. So I'm like, well, this is something where the veterans could be a part of a team. And that's kind of how I thought about the cleaning field, just to work with other veterans and family members of vets again.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. I love the fact that we're getting a little reverb there. I love the fact of you're giving back to the veteran community by, and not just in what most of us do is we start a business and we go, yeah, I want to give back. But what I love about what you just told us was you saw it as you saw the business as an opportunity, not as a second thought. And that's a pretty special place to be. I love that idea that you did.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I remember getting out. I was in the Army from 03 to 07. And when I first transitioned out, I couldn't find a job for about 6 months. And I was over in Iraq in 04, and I was dealing with some of the thoughts and things like that occurred over there. And it was a tough 6 months. So I'm like, the busier I get, the more focus I could turn kind of that energy into something positive. And so that's kind of one of the main reasons was somebody gave me an opportunity when I got out and just wanted to pay it back and kind of work with other like-minded people, to be honest.
Yeah, that's great. Camden. Ooh, we're getting some serious reverb again. I thought you had something, Camden. But so how do you find these vets and assure that this process continues on?
Yeah, so what I do is I work pretty close with the VA Voc Rehab. And that's they work with veterans kind of looking for employment opportunities. I was fortunate enough when I got out in 2008, I started off as a peer support counselor at the VA. And then eventually I was a Voc Rehab counselor for about 2 years in the St. Louis area. And so I was able to establish relationships with other Voc Rehab counselors. And so when I have job opportunities, what I do is I call them up. They set up the interviews where there's about 6 VA Voc Rehab counselors I work really close with. And that's where we talk to the veterans about different opportunities as they arise. And then a lot of the veterans talk to their family members once we start cleaning a building. And then we just kind of go from there.
One interesting thing that stands out to me about your business is one, the complementary aspect of, having the nighttime position versus, so they're still able to go to school during the day. You can see how it's very transition focused and you really looking at the big picture there. So was that something you were consciously putting together? Because it seems like it's like an ideal, like stepping stone job type position for folks transitioning out. Is that something you thought about or?
So let's see, I got out when I was 28 years old. So I went in a little bit later on. I was 24 to 28. And then when we were getting out, a lot of us at that time were going back to school. A lot of us were younger and things of that nature, where it's like, as the process went on, more of our veterans now might be around the Vietnam era veteran, the Gulf War veterans, things of that nature. So everything kind of transitions over over time. But I know you guys are talking about growth.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started, I started cleaning the buildings on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'd work from 7:30 to 3:30, and then I would clean from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. at night. And I did that for about 2 years. After about 6 months, I was able to hire my first veteran employee. Then, 3 and 4 down the line. And now we got close to 59 team members. But it started out, I was kind of just learning a cool guy named Larry Abrams, a Vietnam veteran. His office was 2,000 square feet and insurance guy. And we cleaned it once a week on a Saturday. And that was our first contract in 2011, January. And that's kind of how we started.
So, and by the way, thanks for the plug for our theme for July, growth. So once that started, did you have a vision for growth when you first started off, or were you just kind of like, this is a good idea, I think I can do something, let me just start hitting the ball and see what happens?
I had I learned a lot of lessons for sure. I have a social work background, so I didn't really take any business classes. So I kind of learned just over time. I had a few gentlemen that heard what I was doing around 2011. And at that time, we were doing about 4 buildings. They really heard and liked what we were doing. And so what we did was we formed up an advisory panel. So I had about 11 team members. We meet once every 3 months, and they volunteered their time. And these guys had quite a bit of business experience. So I learned a lot from setting up the advisory panel, from getting approached to guys that wanted to really help a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. And I learned a lot of lessons from those meetings from them.
That's great. And so you had a set of mentors that, did you seek them out? Because this is something that we've had a lot of discussions over the last few years of our show. Mm-hmm. is the whole mentoring thing. We had one of Camden's buddies down in Arizona that used to run the Big Brothers Big Sisters for all of Arizona. Had him on, and that's a whole organization that's around mentoring
for sure.
So I'm curious, when you refer to these mentors, how did you get linked up? Was it intentional or what?
Well, I was fortunate enough. So there's an organization called the Mission Continues. Mm-hmm. That kind of helps veterans just be a part of a team again, community. And so I was actually the first St. Louis, Missouri Missions Continues Fellow in 2008. From that experience, I learned a lot of different things, like public speaking. I never spoke in public before that. And I was always a really shy kid. And from kind of doing different things like that, I was able to share my story. And then people just started kind of reaching out. Hey, we like what you're doing with Patriot Commercial Cleaning. So with the advisory panel, some people actually approached me and said, hey, Tim, we'd like to help you out this way. What do you think? It was a great experience because my wife, Terry, she's our CFO. So Terry does all the paperwork, all the quarterly taxes, all the payroll, all the stuff that's really important in the back of the house, she takes care of. But that's kind of how they reached out to me.
I think the lesson there that comes to mind for me is about authenticity. Because you talk about, learning how to be able to tell your story. I think that's such a big piece of being a business owner, is being able to communicate your path and your story that led you to this business and how it ties in with the business. But then also I found a kind of similar type thing when you're in these networking type environments. When you're authentic in your story and authentic in your business, people see that passion, they see that authenticity, and people will naturally want to attach themselves to that. And so I think that's a really important thing there when you think about the authenticity of being able to tell your own story like that.
No, I agree with that totally, Cam. That's kind of what I learned over the time, where it seems like, if you believe in something, you'll have other people that just generally want to help you out. And it's pretty cool to be able to learn different experiences from what they have and just kind of go from there. I mean, especially now, I learn new things every day, so it's pretty exciting.
Well, learning new things every day, that's a big piece of the growth mindset, going back to our theme for July. So I'm curious then, you obviously got a lot of things going on, family and business. How do you keep yourself in that kind of growth mindset of looking to learn new things?
Yeah, different experiences come across, So last year during the COVID, when everything was kind of on lockdown, as far as the cleaning stuff, around April, May, and June, a few of the buildings went to skeleton crews, like 4 buildings out of all the ones that were cleaning. So what I was able to do is kind of move some people around, and we were able to keep working and pushing forward. But then during that downtime too, when there wasn't a lot of people answering phone calls or anything, I was actually able to start up another company called Patriot Industries about 1.5 years ago, and that's a roofing company where everybody was staying at home, but a lot of them had extra money and they needed new roofs and stuff. So even though the cleaning, we kind of stay the same, the roofing company just really grew probably about 300% because there was an opportunity and people needed stuff done around the house and just went from there.
I'm curious then on that subject, how did you recognize that opportunity? This is something we talk about in kind of the generic terms all the time on the show. But I think it's really interesting to kind of treat it like a case study of, you were there, you had a business that was being forced to make some adjustments due to the pandemic. And then you saw another opportunity that was there. Could you take us through what that kind of process was like of seeing that opportunity and then, going to capitalize on it?
Yeah. So how that kind of happened was I started doing some patch and repair work for different roofing companies about 1.5 years before, about a year before that. And then we were getting pretty good. I had about 2 team members at the time doing a great job. And from that experience, we got pretty good at patch and repair. Then a funny story is we had one of our old houses we sold, we were renting out. Well, it was time to sell that. And anyway, I met a guy that did roofing, and he had a crew of about 5 or 6 guys. And so they did my house, and they did such a good job. They said, hey, our main thing is roofing. And from that experience, we now have a crew of 8 guys when we started out with just 2 that knows how to do low slope, asphalt shingles, architectural shingles, and slate. And so that's kind of how it grew, where I needed to get the house done. And I just was talking to some guys there at Home Depot, and we decided to join forces and went from there.
That's awesome. Just hanging out with a couple of guys at the Home Depot and let's start a business. I mean, I think that may be better than the guys hanging out at the bar, drinking a beer and coming up with business ideas on a cocktail napkin. I mean, when you meet people in Home Depot and you hit it off like that, that's, that mindset of creating your own luck, and that the whole thing of, an overnight success over the last 5 years. It took me 5 years to become successful. All these sort of things they're just spewing out of my mind, because I think that's so cool, because that's the attitude that you walk into Home Depot with, right? Well, now I'm going to have to change my attitude when I go into Home Depot. I'm going to have to be a little bit more open, because you never know who you're going to meet, right?
You never know. I mean, it's funny how things work out sometimes.
It is. It's really cool. And I have a thought really with kind of in that same realm, but it's more of a, what's the lesson that you would toss back to other veterans? Because I was reading something the other day, and I think it may be a VA email or something like that a significant number, and I want to say like 40, 50% of veterans, when they separate, become entrepreneurs, that's pretty cool. You know, when you
That
think
is.
about it, you know, I mean, but and then you start to reflect on why that is. And I know you and I, the same reason why that is, because we kind of have that sort of a mindset. But I'm curious. So for all those veterans out there, or soon to be veterans, what's that one thing that is like, man, put this in your pocket and pull it out when you need it, sort of thing, because this is the biggest lesson I learned.
I would say from that is, so when I first started out, I only had $2,500 to start out with, and I borrowed that from my thrift savings plan. So I got up and I was saved up, you know, from
For those who don't know, I'll just interrupt you real quick. For those who don't know, thrift savings plan is basically the Army's version of a 401k.
Exactly right. And so I'm like, I don't have very much in here. Let's go ahead and give it a spin. And so I took the $2,500 out and was able to basically just got my insurance. And then I kind of bootstrapped it for sure, where I never bought equipment or anything until I won the contract. So I learned from starting out with not very much capital at all, how to make the money grow, not taking funding from anybody, but how to manage that money first and then kind of grow organically. And from that experience, I learned how to manage more as we grew, because I started out with such a low amount of funding and just kind of went from there. So I had to learn a lot of lessons, but it wasn't overwhelming because I took it step by step.
You know, I'm curious because I've seen this in other entrepreneurs and some folks I've coached before. Did you ever reach a point during that? Because when you're going through the bootstrapping, things are very different than normal business operations. Did you ever reach the point where you were feeling like you were selling a bridge to nowhere type thing? Like, hey, I got 10 contracts built out, haven't even bought the equipment yet, or like any sort of point like that where you thought you might be maybe even overplaying the hand or anything? Because the organic growth, it's all really smart when you lay it out like that. But when you're the person going through it, sometimes those type of feelings can come up, as far as, you know, selling a bridge to nowhere type thing.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's, you know, you ask yourself a lot of questions. I mean, it's like, am I doing this right? Are we going in the right direction? You know, am I bidding the jobs the right way? Is you know, is there enough profit margin? Am I bidding them too high where I'm not winning the jobs? Because I've had droughts too, where I'm like, man, I was putting out all the paper and we just couldn't get one underneath the belt, per se. And that's when a lot of the questions start happening, like, what do I need to change? You know? And so, yeah, there's a lot of that, especially, you know, it's my passion now. Like, I remember as a kid, I played a lot of basketball and that's what I would do. Now I kind of run the business, and it's kind of the same thing, you know, you just switch one for another. So definitely, yeah.
Did you do it all as a solopreneur, or did you bring in, because one of the things, particularly in the tech world, with other vets I've worked with in tech world setup, they can't pull it off by themselves, and it's not a ding on them, but it's just in the tech world, things are having to, you know, really circulate. You got to have somebody that can do the coding. But did you know, solopreneur the whole thing and then create the business, or what?
Yeah. So, you know, Otis, kind of like you and Cam. So, you know, I grew up and my dad was my basketball coach all the time. And my dad, he worked at the bakery for like 32 years. And then after that, he worked about 6 or 7 years at the TSA, doing the airport security and all that. Well, from like 56 to 62, he's working at TSA. But, you know, the last 8 years, I was able to hire my dad about 8 years ago as our operational manager. And so just having that somebody to bounce ideas off with is huge for me. From his experience in operations at the bakery, and as somebody I could really trust, I'd throw a lot of different ideas off him. And what do you think? So we actually have a real good time, real good relationship, just kind of growing the business. So I definitely wouldn't say it's by myself. I have a team of people that I can really trust. And I think that's big to have, where you don't feel as lonely or as much pressure, where you can bounce different ideas off people.
Oh yeah, yeah. That makes such a difference, because that old adage of "it's lonely at the top" is such a farce. If it's only lonely at the top, if you make it lonely at the top, right? There's always resources, and I'll just plug Tribe and Purpose right here, because I can't not. But that's one of the things we do with our tribes, right? Is we bring that leadership together, and I think that's a critical aspect that you can have, that to have your dad, man. That's kind of cool. Camden, big business. Hire your dad. But that is really cool to be able to do that. And I can imagine what that must have felt like, and how fun that must be. So I'm going to shift gears from the happy-go-lucky to the, all right, what was that thing where you were, Friday afternoon, you payroll was coming on Monday, and you were like, oh my God, and you were tempted to just get in the truck, grab your wife, and just start driving west. Have you had any of those kind of moments?
I've had quite a few of those moments. I remember one in particular was last year. It was a cleaning job in Lebanon, Missouri, which is about 2.5 hours out of St. Louis. And so it was about 48,000 square feet. We've done similar jobs, where we're cleaning the floors, doing some stripping and waxing, things of that nature. But like I said, this one was 2.5 hours away. And I thought it was going to be like similar jobs like we've done in the past. So I just gave my number without actually going there to the job site, taking a look at it like I should have done. And so, I figured, it's just like the other jobs. And it wasn't. I didn't read the scope of work close enough. And this job entailed also cleaning rafters that were about 52 feet up in the air. So we had to rent, a lot of high lifts and everything to get all that, the rafters. And to make it worse, this place was, they had mud races there on the weekends. So the whole community get there. So there was dust all over the place here. And what I thought was going to be a 2-day job, just doing the floors and some bleachers, took me 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And I was driving back and forth and staying in the hotel there about 3 or 4 nights a week. I'm telling my wife, Tara, like, well, shit, I really messed up on this one. I mean, it was just one of those learning experiences. I'm like, I will never get a job without actually taking a look at it. So last year is just one of those times.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine that. I've done a couple of scopes of work like that, hey, we won. Yeah, all right. And then you pull it out and you go, oh crap, I really got to do this stuff. That makes life really interesting when you have those sort of actions. And I've seen it several times in my career. So man, that's good for you to finish it up, because, that's a quality I think other people miss out on and I'm just going to go ahead and say, as veterans, we tend to do that. It's like, hey, I committed to this. I'm probably going to lose money on it. I'm just going to guess you probably lost money on that job.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to lose money on it, but because of who I am and the integrity that I have that was fostered and honed in the military, I'm carrying that through in my business. And therefore, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And I think that's a critical aspect that kind of gets glossed over. We talk a little bit about leadership, from the veterans and that sort of experience, but man, that integrity from vets, it is a rare occasion when I've worked with a vet where the integrity was not of the highest standard of, I'm doing what I say I'm going to do and I'm going to get it done. So
without a doubt, I mean, that one, it was a tough one. I remember just from being so far away, it was hard to get our crews down there for sure. So there are some nights I would walk around, the Domino's Pizza to the Lowe's, trying to find team members to help me out with that job, saying, hey, I got an opportunity here. Would you be interested? We got the job done. It wasn't fun, but it got done. And, that's all you can do. Just finish what you started.
One thing I think would be interesting to explore here, because what you were identifying there, Dad, you talked about the integrity that you get from your time in the Army. I think that naturally comes from the fact that y'all don't exactly get the 40-hour work week when you're in there. It's not,
Sure.
you're not leaving at 5 o'clock every single day, whether the job's done or not. It's a completely different kind of culture. And so you
Right.
kind of highlighted the positive side of that. I think there's a negative there, though, that I don't think it's too hard to identify, but just that you can overwork yourself, not value your labor at a certain level. What has been your experience? And I'll open this up to you, Dad. Also, what has been your experience as far as trying to combat that negative side while still embracing the positive aspect?
Yeah, just finding different things you enjoy. I started playing golf about 5 years ago, and I'm still pretty horrible at it, but it gets out there, and I get to kind of think of different ideas while I'm out there. It's something I enjoy doing now. So I try to, find a balance of, so you don't overstress and overwork yourself, whatever the case is. And I try to find jobs that are going to be a good fit for us, where we don't win every job, but the jobs we do win, we're around about a 30 to 36% profit margin. And we just bid jobs now 15,000 square feet or more on the cleaning side. So it took me a while, but I identified what a good job looks like for us. And that took about 4 or 5 years to do, but it makes my job a lot easier now.
Really interesting, because actually, as you're talking about kind of fine tuning that of what the right job looks like for you, one of the things I've been thinking is, and the Army teaches this, as far as like grit, determination, hard work, all those type of things. But you've talked a few different times about sports in your life, basketball growing up, and then now with golf. And one of the things that I always think about when it comes to sports, and it's why sports are so important in youth development, it teaches grit, which is great. And it teaches that determination, teaches the teamwork. But one of the subtle things that nobody talks about as much is it teaches the importance of marginal improvement. And that's what I'm hearing you talk about in your work, as well as then, in the quick comment about golf. That's one of the things that I enjoy. I can't do much golf because of my back, but I do enjoy that aspect of it so much, is you get this super fast feedback loop, and then you can make these tiny little adjustments that make a world of difference. And that's an interesting aspect to be able to carry into your business. Is that something you've consciously looked at, or is that just something that's come natural to you?
I'd say both. I've learned a lot of lessons over time, or just little bit by little bit, like on every bid that we didn't win, I'll kind of go back at those and review them and see what could I have done a little bit different, or on the ones we win, okay, what worked, what's a good, is being 11 cents a square foot good for the cleaning company if it's about 60 or 70,000 square feet? Okay, that seems to be the right number. 15 cents a square foot is a little too high. 9 cents isn't enough, where you find that sweet spot, and it makes life easier because you got something to go off of from past history of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, because, when you break down those things and you find those kind of metrics inside your business, and that's a very good example of, cost per square foot of a cleaning job. But when you start breaking things down to those kind of metrics, that's where you can look for that marginal improvements. And then it's just like working on your jump shot or any other aspect of a sport, is you're just looking on those little tiny tweaks. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just kind of curious. So we got Patriot Roofing, Patriot Commercial Cleaning. What's next? I mean, is there another Patriot coming along, or expansion of both of those, or what? What do you think? What do you envision on the horizon?
I for the Patriot Industry Roofing, I think we might eventually be more of a general contractor, more of a GC, where we're doing a lot of roofs. We do quite a few decks, some fencing. So I think we might start to grow a little bit that way. And on the cleaning side now, it really looks like things are starting to open up again. With the pandemic, we really kind of tweaked. We started doing a lot of the electrostatic fogging like they do on all the airplanes and stuff like that. where we were fortunate enough to get some of those at the beginning of the pandemic. And those have really helped us grow the business because not every company had those or invested in it. When we did, we had the capability to get that done. So, and now it looks like things are starting to open up again where there's a demand again for cleaning and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great. So just to kind of harp on that though, do you see just standard growth with your business, or do you see expansion growth, you know, where you want to have a 50% increase over the next 5 years or something like that? That's really kind of what I'm thinking is, you know, what's the next thing? And by the way, not that what you just said wasn't interesting and important, but I'm kind of curious, what's that next leap that you envision for your team, you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to definitely keep growing, you know, maybe about 65. I think on the cleaning, if we can grow it about 40% this year, which we're doing, I don't know, about 1.1 million this year on the cleaning side. And the roofing side, about 320,000, and we're probably going to be closer looking to 600,000 or 700,000 this year. But just to give the veterans and the people listening that, you know, our first contract was $125 a month, and you just grow it little bit by little bit. Where there's some companies that are so much bigger than us, but you know, it's what I enjoy doing. I think because we take a slower approach to the growth, but then can have the capability to scale too. Everybody kind of wins. So that's kind of our growth scale, what we're looking at right now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I heard my favorite thing, everybody wins, which is an attitude of abundance, because there's always more buildings to be cleaned. There's always more roofs to be fixed, right? I mean, that's you have that attitude, and I love that.
For sure.
Man, well, this
has
been great.
I mean,
go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Otis.
I was just going to say this is great.
You know,
I'm sorry, y'all. That's too funny. The Zoom equivalent of two people trying to walk down the sidewalk at the same time.
Pretty much.
I'm a director. Tim, you go.
I was just going to say, you know, in the past too, we have kind of worked with some of our competitors that are larger than us. They're like, hey, can you help us on some of these jobs because we're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business? Where that kind of stuff can work for some of the people that might be watching also, where you might get contacted to work with a more experienced team that's larger than you are, where the other contractor wins and you win, and you know, everybody kind of works together and moves forward.
Yeah, and that is a man, for anybody out there that's thinking that, if you're not tracking on being a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, there are so many opportunities from the government that set asides, and commercial businesses even set aside. So yeah, make sure that you're structuring your company in the right way, because yeah, you can get so much help in that fashion, whether it's, you know, latching on to a large, you know, like a Lockheed or I mean, whatever it may be, but and get started that way, man, that helps offset so much of your cost in that bootstrapping world. So yeah, thanks for the little reminder about that, because that's huge. And,
absolutely.
But I'd love to continue on, but I think I'm going to shift our gears a little bit and just find out what we learn. And I'm gonna go first. For me, I have to laugh at this because the fact that it happened means it's so true, and it's changing my attitude when I go to Home Depot. Because when I go to Home Depot, I've got my project in mind. I've got the list in my head, or what is that widget that's going to fix this thing, and I'm totally focused on that. All right, I'm going to that aisle. And I go there and I study and I grab the right thing, and then I go and check out and I'm out. Man, I might have started a roofing company by now if I'd had a little bit different attitude going into the Home Depot. I mean, that is a huge lesson I think that we should all look at in life, is open yourself up to what might be around you. If you're not, you know, you got the blinders on, like I was just describing myself going into the Home Depot, man, how much stuff have I missed over the years? So now I feel like jumping in the truck, driving down to the Home Depot right now, kind of walking the aisles, just see what I can find out. But that one is it for me. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Actually, very similar on that because, my friends and family down here might hate this about me, but I'm a bit of a chatty Cathy like that. If I like to talk to people, and I'm the one who does the small talk that most people ignore, but I'll take it to the next level if somebody actually engages me. I do want to know how you are, and I'll build the conversation up from there. But what that conversation reminded me of so much is something we've heard from other folks on the show before, is never turn down a conversation. And you never know what random person you bump into when you talk a little bit about your business or something, what advice they'll have for you, what kind of insights they'll have for you. And, who knows, maybe you can get into business together. So that's one I'm going to continue to be a chatty Cathy, and I'm okay with that. And, everyone around me might just have to deal with it. We'll be a little late places because I'm going to talk with people.
Cool.
All right, Tim, how about you? What'd you learn?
Well, what I learned from this is how cool it is actually to have a podcast. I've been on a few podcasts before, but I think basically the exposure and just all the information you can learn from the podcast is definitely the way it's going. So, maybe down the line, just learning more about podcasts, especially talking to other veterans and family members of vets on the podcast, is pretty cool. So, probably more about podcasting and how that could benefit you in the long run and how many people you can reach.
Yeah, very true. Very true. That's great. I appreciate that. And one thing, share with us how, folks in the St. Louis greater metropolitan area, how they can get in touch with you if they need, their buildings cleaned or roofs redone on their office building, whatever those things are. What's the best method for getting set up with you and your team?
Sure. So going to our website, www.patriotcleaning.net is always a good one. For our roofing company, it's www.patriot-industries.net. And then also just give me a call at 314-456-2516. Those are the best ways for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on with us today, Tim. It's good to chat with you and get to know you more. Look forward to speaking with you more and continuing this. And, Camden and I, we tend to circulate guests, so maybe we have you back on and we'll talk more roofing and cleaning and see where you're at in the next year or two. So really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate your time. It was a great time just talking to you guys, and I look forward to hearing more about what you guys are doing too. So please stay in touch. I always love hearing entrepreneur stories. I find them really interesting.
Awesome. Camden, send us out, please.
Thank you all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Tim Smith, and our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your purpose, build your tribe. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.